Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Not Just Leadership podcast. I'm your host, Dominic de Moura McCarthy, and thanks for joining for another episode. It's a really exciting episode today because we are joined by Jonny Kawa, my guest here in person, and a real privilege to have him in the studio. We only met a few weeks back, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
But we've made a good connection, and you were quick to jump on the invite and come into the studio. So thanks for joining us, Jonny.
Very welcome. It's really great to be here. Dom,
First time podcasting?
First time podcasting. Do you think they can do it? I'm glad that you've made your way to Cairns too.
Australia's best city.
I'm your free tour guide for whatever you need. But it's going to be largely hikes and sunrise hikes.
Suits me. Anything physical.
Yeah, and creek swims.
So, Jonny, can you just introduce yourself a little bit? Because you have a really interesting background and life story, I guess. Share with us where you're from, where you grew up, what you've been doing for the past couple of decades or more.
Certainly. Yeah. How long do we have? All right. My name is Jonathan WAKA Kawa. So I am Papua New Guinean on my dad's side, and he is from the southern highlands of Papua New Guinea. A village is called Kendal. Actually, it's split between two. It's quite a large family. So I've had a very good upbringing in Papua New Guinea. Mother, Australian, from down in Wagga Wagga, or more specifically, Temora. So I have an older sister who's, I always say, is a little bit more famous than me because she is a professional rugby player.
Awesome.
So played rugby union, represented Papua New Guinea, and was the captain of the Melbourne Rebels team. So you got to ride those coattails, you know.
Yeah.
I get a lot of secondhand rugby kit that I just steal and
female or male?
mostly female, but I wear it.
Yeah.
I got hats, I got shorts. That water bottle there, that's hers.
Yeah.
But yes, I grew up in Papua New Guinea in the Highlands, Pangaea, Yalibu. Made my way. Well, I didn't. Parents moved down to Lae, which is the second largest city in PNG, where my sister and I went to primary school. And we have a lot of family. So grandfather had 3 wives. Dad is the last born of the second wife. So very much a big community that I was a part of growing up. And I think I think it really helped my mum out, not having to look after my sister and I and just letting the village raise us. And so she lucked out there. So good childhood in Lae, father's still in Lae, mother's here in Cairns. My sister and I and my mum moved to Cairns to finish high school. There was better opportunities here. As soon as I finished Cairns, high school in Cairns, basically down to Brizzy. Following my sister, who was like, come to Brizzy. Everyone from PNG that we went to primary school with is here. So that was a good reunion. In Brisbane, I went and did my undergrad was a Bachelor of International Hotel and Tourism Management. And that was because here in Cairns, two good mates of mine were like, let's go and get these degrees. We'll come back to Cairns and start a tourism company or something. And one was full-on Aussie ocker, just a larrikin, and he would have just been a great sort of host. The other one was like a really good-looking blonde guy, so all the Japanese women would have loved him. So we just this is a great idea. Let's go and do this. That didn't work out.
Yep.
They all went off, and one became an officer, one joined the army.
Yep.
So I was like, all right. Another mate who was down there at the time was like, let's go and... Well, we're thinking about something else to do, and I decided to do what's called a Master's in Development Practice, and I majored in planning for social development. And that was more aligned to sort of these feelings of, okay, I would love to go back and help Papua New Guinea in this development sector, in this space, because there's a lot of work to be done, and really trying to just understand how it all worked, and, you know, what systems were in place, and where the obstacles were, where the hurdles were, where there's corruption live and exist. And that was quite a good overview of sort of a new country, and as it's developing, you'll get all these natural growing pains. After uni, after that master's degree, though, I didn't go back to Papua New Guinea. I went to Canada, and that's where I was working on a few projects over there that helped me, I guess, get a different type of experience, more in this professional government sector. So there was a few projects. One was for Citizenship Immigration Canada, where we were running this pilot program, largely around visas. But I was in a pretty interesting position over there. So I was put in charge of, so I had to go through like 4 or 5 security sort of gates to get into this particular office that they were printing these visas in. And it was, I guess, the level of trust that they had to put in someone like myself at a young age. It was remarkable, because if one of these sort of documents, these blank visas, went missing, the entire building would have been shut down, and they would have had to get in like what's called the RCMP, which is like the federal police, to come in and do investigations. And I'm like this young Aussie who's just got over, and they've put me in charge. So that was my real first, I guess, what I felt like, oh, I have a big responsibility, where I started to like be a little meticulous about how I ran my day, and double checking things and having that high level of attention to detail. And that just sort of gradually exposed me to more opportunities, because if I performed, I became trusted, and I was able to sort of build better networks and connections, which led to different opportunities. What else have I done? Okay, we'll just fast forward. After Canada, 3 years, came back. I did spend a bit of time in Arnhem Land. So that was a remote island called Elko Island, a small community called Galawinku. And that really was a good experience for someone like myself, who was looking to challenge himself, looking to do something completely outside of my comfort zone. And sorry, bro, I'm just gonna take a drink.
Billy's coffee. Not sponsored yet. We're working on the podcast sponsorships. Any local contacts
we'll make this episode
appreciated.
So Galawinku is right up the top of East Arnhem Land, and the project was called East Arnhem Mediation, and it was trying to essentially balance the 2 authorities that existed in that space at the same time. So you had the Yolngu, who had thousands of years of tradition and law and LORE law. And then you had the Balanda system, which is like, the Balanda is like the white man system. And we had essentially, 2 competing authorities, because the community often were being pulled to recognize one or the other. So a big part of the project was helping in areas like dispute resolution, decision-making, negotiation. So if you have the Balanda system in there, like for instance, if you had some youth delinquent crimes being committed, do we put the youth through the justice system, or do we use the traditional ways of dealing with youth, which was, I believe, Gunapivi is the name, where they would take young boys who have committed crimes to essentially like these camps where they, or not camps, that's not the right word, but take them to
retreats,
this traditional reform. So in the Yolngu system, they have everything from judges to lawmen to things like rehabilitation. They have it all in their own system. So we're essentially trying to empower the traditional ways of how they would deal with things. and keep them out of the Balanda system, because that was very foreign and often undermined a lot of the cultural foundation that the community recognized, because that's their sort of tradition and their customs and culture. So that was a good challenge. So it was very remote. So I noticed a lot of similarities between some of the villages in Papua New Guinea in terms of the lack of, the lack of all the niceties that we get in more developed areas like cities. So there were some parallels that I felt. So I felt very comfortable in these remote areas because of growing up in PNG. And it really just made me go, oh man, there is a lot of similarities across really, really developed nations like Australia and new nations.
Probably even Canada as well.
Canada, very similar. Yeah, they've got quite a big and notorious history with their First Nations as well. So all in all, I had this all of these experiences, but outside of Papua New Guinea. So after Elko Island, after my time up in Arnhem Land, came back to Cairns, and then I was part of. I've just fully pivot around. Long story short, I get bored really quickly. If I'm like 2 years, 3 years somewhere, I'm like, all right, I'm done. Let's go do something else and build up some more experience. And that's been good because I've been able to work with so many diverse people and diverse teams. After that, I got back to Cairns, and then there was a friend of mine, a good high school mate. His partner, we met up one evening, and she was a lawyer. They were running this class action, and they needed someone to administer it. And I'm like, look, I got no job. I just came back from Elko Island, and it was a class action called stolen wages class action, where we were trying to. I mean, the case was to recover wages that were taken from Indigenous, Aboriginal, and Torres Strait Islander workers who are under what was called the Aboriginal Protection Act. And that was a huge, huge case. Big 4 years of going out to remote communities in Queensland only, to find claimants, to find either those who were, you had to be under the Act. So you would have had to be in an age bracket where either you or your parents, and in some rare cases, your grandparents, you could put in a claim for. So we're essentially suing the Queensland government. And that was a huge job, but allowed me to travel to some really remote communities all across Queensland. So that also gave me it also tested me for my administration, organizational skills, and ability to just perform under huge volumes of work. Like there was a lot of claimants involved, a lot of paperwork, a lot of organizing required. So that I did get a lot of experience and a lot of lessons from just those 4 or 5 years. Also made a lot of good mates out of it. And after that, I was thinking, okay, now what do I want to do? And COVID came. So this is like 2020, 21. And I remember just having this light bulb moment when I was exploring. Can't remember if it was a news article, but blockchain tech came across my radar. Bitcoin, Ethereum, all of that stuff. That was when I thought, okay, that's interesting. Don't really know what it is, but I'm intrigued. Let's dig a little deeper. So I started to look into blockchain technology, which is the technology underneath Bitcoin. How are we going with time? We're good. Okay, we'll just chat.
No rush. We're in island time.
So blockchain is it is essentially And I struggle to explain what it is because I usually have to pick a jump off point, and then whoever I'm talking with, I'm like, so what do you know about blockchain first? And wherever you're up to, then I'll jump in and maybe fill in the gaps. But straight off, if I'm going to talk to anyone who doesn't know what blockchain tech is, it's a ledger. It's a ledger system. It's a distributed ledger system at the heart. And what is a ledger? It's just where our civilization, write things down, transaction details, things for us to be able to build a consensus from. And that's what our ability to all agree on, okay, that's the actual state of affairs, or that is those transactions occurred, and this is the live state of the ledger. That allows for like trust. That allows for us to start economies. That allows us to do commerce, do business together, because we all can come to an agreement. And that's what a blockchain allows. It basically allows us all to, because of the attributes of blockchain, it's transparent, it's immutable, it's secure. In parentheses, there's a few things that go into making it secure. I won't go too much in depth. I could talk for ages about it, trying to explain it. But essentially, you've got this digital ledger that you can write transactions to. It's transparent. And from that, people can trust to converse in or transact in or conduct transactions.
So that underpins the transactions in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, blockchain technology.
Exactly.
Which is why you don't need banks or other third parties involved.
Precisely. It does remove the need for third parties. And what is a bank? They're just the ledger keepers. Every time if I wanted to send money to you, Dom, I'm basically going, hey, my bank, can you check if I have $20 in my account? If I do, send it to Dom's account, which means my bank has to contact your bank and then put the money into your account. And then both banks have to update their ledgers so that so the consensus is preserved. A blockchain, you don't need those banks because the blockchain and something called the consensus mechanism allows for that transaction to occur. The blockchains update, and we can see the transparency is there, and the entire network is also privy. Not necessarily privy to it. They don't see my name or your name. They just know that these wallets have exchanged or have had a transaction.
So COVID, you came across blockchain technology, and that's obviously set you on your path of what you're doing today, really?
Yes. Yeah. And blockchain was sort of like that first big emerging tech. So I went down and did a graduate certificate with RMIT in something called blockchain-enabled business. And it was a really, really good eye-opener into the world of emerging technologies. And this is where I'm at now in my life. I'm like, emerging tech, very cool. There's so much. It's very rapidly moving. And it's a typical, it plays out like this. Policies and regulations in society are always playing catch up with what new technology and its implications are. And blockchain was one, AI is another. And so sort of on that journey of blockchain, I've now fell into AI. And now I have upskilled in building AI solutions. So there's a course that I did called AI Solution Architect. And I'm a bit like reluctant to go out and say I'm an AI solution architect, but I do like solution architect. So I would now
fancy title.
It's a more fitting title for sort of the kind of what my aspirations are. Yeah. Solutions, right? So many problems on planet Earth. So it's almost like you just pick a problem and then work your ass off to try and find a solution for it. And once you go down that path of just picking one problem, you'll see, there's another problem that sort of folds into this problem. And then you just start to see this big web of like, there is so many everything is somewhat interconnected. So solution architect is I think a far better sort of title.
Yeah.
Because I'm just orientated towards like, all right, let's just figure it out. So AI, in my opinion, is now something called, I wouldn't say something called, but another way to think about it is like it's intelligence and it's a utility. So we can essentially leverage the intelligence of artificial intelligence to help us problem solve things. And these models, and when I say models, I'm speaking specifically of large language models. And just to maybe explain a bit, that's essentially your ChatGPT. That's a large language model. Claude, that's a large language model. Grok, these are all Copilot, that's a large language model.
Gemini.
Yeah. And large language models they use something called deep neural networks, which is a new, no, I wouldn't say new, because AI has been around since like the 1950s. Like it's been slowly developing, and there was a huge AI winter where people didn't have any faith in it. I'm going to go off on tangent and talk a bit about AI if you don't mind. All right. So where we are now, right, with all these models coming up, it is because what was being developed at the same time was GPUs, so graphic processor units, essentially what allows us to have those cool graphics on video games.
Yeah.
And what they turned out to be incredibly awesome at training models because they could do specific things better than what a general CPU could do. So you've got this sort of evolution of hardware. So you've got compute power now. The other thing that got us to this stage is the internet and the volume of digital information that we have created. So over the span of however long the internet's been around, we humans have put a lot of things online. We've digitized a lot of our lives and our information.
Yeah.
Everything that a large language model needs to be trained on. Mm-hmm. So you've got hardware, now you've got the data, and now they were able to figure out and finesse a way to use deep neural networks to then produce what we now have as ChatGPT, Claude, where you have an input, and that input goes through this, the model, which has layers, hidden layers, attribution layers, and it uses some really interesting mathematics and algorithms, gradient descent, backpropagation. And then what you get on the other end is an output, an incredibly, accurate output that is essentially talking to you like another human. So that's the kind of intelligence that we have today. And if we zoom out, our species, the only reason like we're at the top of the sort of animal kingdom is because of our intelligence. Now we've gone and built something that's more intelligent than us. So these models can reason better. They're much quicker at passing on information. For instance, if I read a book and I'm like, Dom, I'm reading this book, it's pretty amazing. Here are some little quick snapshots. I would then have to basically I'm reading the book, my brain's interpreting what I've read, and then I'm going to explain it to you. So the degradation is there when I'm trying to explain that knowledge. But with two models, it'll read that book in half a second and then transmit the entire information component to that other model. So that transfer of knowledge is there. Essentially, what I believe and what I'm getting at is okay, the world has some incredibly significant, complex problems that we humans trying to put our trying to put our biological meat brains and apply it to the problem. You can get 100, 1,000 really clever people to work on it. You still would likely not be able to achieve or sort of harness the power to try and figure it out as if I don't know what the word I'm trying to use is, but essentially using AI as that reasoning and using AI to reason and problem solve is far more powerful than like a group of really intelligent people. So the trade-offs are, I mean, there's a lot of trade-offs, but we'll get into that. There's some bad things too that AI is, and the threat sort of. I'm just gonna have a drink first.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I mean, I'm interested to draw the link to Papua New Guinea and how you think this could transform a nation like Papua New Guinea in particular. We recently participated in the Australia Papua New Guinea Emerging Leaders Dialogue here in Cairns, and it's clear that there's a lot of human resources, a lot of people that are willing to kind of push the dial and make a change. But how can we leverage the AI tools really to like improve systems and improve education? And even they mentioned that a lot of people who apply for these programs now are just all putting in the same prompts into AI and getting the same responses. So, and I was very open and I said I used it to help craft my response, and I was successful, but I didn't use it to write, to answer the question. So how do you see like PNG utilizing these tools? And recently they've had Starlink become authorized, so that's going to definitely, I guess, work hand in hand with utilizing AI as well. So what's kind of your vision there in PNG and with the work you're doing in your business?
Yeah, I think I know that there will be a big need to educate the risks as well as like how to use it ethically. Because like any technology, it's a double-edged sword. Where I think it'll help PNG is I feel there is a lot of institutions and incompetence and dysfunction where at one point in our history in PNG, things worked. You had humans. We had people that were motivated and wanted to sort of push the needle of development in the country. And then over the years, I feel like there's been stagnant leadership and there's been a system that is becoming a bit too chaotic. And so what I think AI could do to help is something called, I think I mentioned it, it was called like a coherence audit. And what that is sort of two things. One is we've got legislation, we've got policies, we've got these statutory documents that govern our country, we've got the Constitution. I've been through a few of these legislation docs. They are huge. They are massive bodies of text. Not many people know what it all means.
Yeah.
There is also policies, regulations, a whole bunch of laws. Everything that governs a country is there across multiple departments. Essentially, if we were to just get all of those documents and use AI to do this coherence audit where it sort of brings them all to the surface and you see, okay, we made this legislation in the 70s. Here is what it intended to do. This is the reality on the ground. And the second half is we have to assess and be honest about this is the reality in Papua New Guinea right now. We can't sugarcoat anything. Things don't work. There's no medicine in clinics. Roads are not working. There's just a whole bunch of issues. So you bring to the surface what all this legislation intended and was intended to govern the country, to move the country forward, to keep those institutions, the civil institutions, the law, tax, regulators, everyone needs to participate in order to have a functioning government and in order for services to reach the people and the citizens. Now, somewhere along the line, things have broken down. Now, I think if we can use AI to do a huge full audit of every piece of documentation ever written, nothing personal or public-facing knowledge, but you surface it all, and then you can use models and their ability to reason and their ability to map out where the disconnects are against what's happening in the real world. And then it can start to strategize. Okay, you guys wanted to do this. You've had legislation here. This piece of policy no longer is relevant because the internet was invented, and the internet now completely is either undermining or doesn't even recognize whatever piece of legislation or policy that might be. So essentially, it's like being introspective. You just go deep dive in yourself. Let's see where the issues are, and then let's map out or realign or align back to what moves the country forward. And so that would be a big job, but doable in today because of the compute and the intelligence that we have. So that would be one way of using AI. The other really important thing is, I think, education. So now that Starlink's making its way into PNG, you essentially have an opportunity to use AI to educate younger or the youth or people in remote villages, because reality is we don't have enough teachers in these specific roles and in these remote areas to be full-time there teaching and educating. And it's not any fault of sort of these villages who are in these remote areas, but we can now use AI to be a substitute teacher or a tutor to assist with teaching kids basic curriculum. You can adopt the Australian curriculum or whatever it might be, whatever the PNG government uses. Now that would come with challenges, like what is the hardware in these villages? Is there electricity? Yeah. All of these basic needs also come into play. But education, I think, is something that the government can leverage.
Yeah. And I feel like
sectors.
Yeah, even at the government level, like with public servants and things, and I even seen like engaging with different stakeholders in PNG. You can tell sometimes when they just send that email through AI. And I'll be honest, like I use AI like ChatGPT or Claude or whatever to refine my emails as well. But you've got to be careful because sometimes it's so obvious when you've lost the human touch.
Yeah.
AI is really good because you can, as you mentioned, it's like reasoning. So you can tell it that, okay, I want to write an email about this. It needs to be clear and understandable, and I don't want it to sound like a computer. You've got to be careful what input you give it. Otherwise, it is a computer and it will automatically give you sometimes a very generic and a very AI response, the ChatGPT response. So I feel like that education piece goes across the broad sector of the workforce, and it's not just the youth or the teachers. It's also public servants and business people as well.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. And it's funny, Blaze, our other brother there from the ELD, we had this chat, and he mentioned the particular relationship. So how we know in PNG it's people to people, right? And I had a bit of a light bulb moment. I'm like, yeah, you might get this, let's say, a business in Australia or wherever in the West, just using an AI to read, draft, and then respond to emails. Whereas in PNG, you might have like a human just there reading these emails and then responding from their own sort of in their human way. And you're going to get this unfair sort of exchange. You've got something that's authentically human coming from one side and something that's just AI. And I think that will impact the relationship of doing business, or because you're somewhat, negating the very important human to human link person.
Yeah, businesses think it's good customer service. It's giving them an instant response, but then the instant response is so generic that you feel devalued as a customer.
That's it. Devalued, I think, is an accurate way to describe that. So there is ways to use AI, and you essentially want to refrain from like cognitive offloading, because you still need to have that human touch in anything that you do with AI. You can get it to do a lot of the heavy lifting, but you have to read it, review it, and you essentially need to like understand what it's written, because I mean, these models have the tendency to hallucinate, so they can be inaccurate. So you can never trust its output. And I think in every single large language model, they say this is an AI model. You need to check its output because it can be wrong. But yeah, just teaching people that how to use it. It can be beneficial for time saving, for summarizing large emails, but still use your human brain to do that final check and final response. It's I think it'll come with time. I think it's so new and people might feel rushed and they just offload a lot of things to AI, and that's normal, but we'll have to retrain ourselves to get back into that cognitive load to use our brains.
And you've got your business set up now, working in this area, and you've been part of the Emerging Leaders Dialogue for Australia and Papua New Guinea. So, in terms of leadership, like, how do you view yourself as a leader, and how do you think you can be a leader in this AI space? Because it's really like there's not a lot of, particularly in the Pacific and PNG, there's probably not a lot of people who are leading on this front that I feel like you are. How do you see yourself like in this area of leadership of bringing these solutions to the community?
Good question. I do think I'll just start with I think what I think a good leader is. I was thinking about this before the podcast, and I think a leader has to have certain qualities. I think humility and integrity are big qualities. And the reason, not only those two, but there's quite a lot, but there are things that I think a leader, there are things that I'm witnessing now that essentially don't fit the criteria for a leader. So for me, a leader is someone that, would have to go without so that people that they're responsible for can have. So for instance, if, they would have to stand out in the rain so that the people that are under them can be sheltered, go without food so the people that are under them can be fed. Basically, go without so that those that you're responsible for can have. And I think that's a really important quality to have as a leader. I think someone like me in this space and having this awareness of these changes that are coming from emerging technologies, I would like to uphold sort of the ethics and the what's the other word? The ethics and the, I guess, responsibilities of maintaining our cultural and customs and pasin that give strength to nations like Papua New Guinea and across the Pacific. And what that looks like in AI, I'm not entirely sure, but I do know that we will get to a stage where we'll have these models that can be built by the people. So that means that we'll have all of the Actually, let me just rephrase that. We're going to reverse cut this one out. I guess what I'm trying to say is like, I think good leadership in Papua New Guinea at the moment in this space is a large sort of nationwide conversation about how we want to use AI. So we'll have to come up with policies and regulations about it. It can be a very dangerous technology if it's not used appropriately. So we have a rich nation of different customs and cultures, and we have the chance to sort of embed those values and virtues into our sort of AI governance and our AI policies and regulations. And I think that is one area where I would be wanting to apply myself and my experience and understanding of this new technology. Because if we let the rest of the world or America or China or whoever has the leading edge on these models sort of influence and dictate how these models are used in PNG, then we have the risk of losing a few of these very important cultural values and virtues of ours. And so if more people have exposure to AI and understand the risks, then they're well equipped to sort of create their own, not necessarily their own, but like they're more equipped to navigate this world and still maintain and preserve our culture and our customs and passing.
It really comes back to the education piece at the end of the day.
Education and the advocacy.
Yeah. And putting those like mechanisms in place from the government level as well.
Yes. The governance, new policies, new regulations. There's global sort of ethics and frameworks for how to use AI, and I think they'll have to be adopted, but also customized.
Yeah.
For Papua New Guinea. Yeah.
Amazing. Any kind of final words of encouragement you could leave people out there listening who want to kind of go into leadership, maybe set up a business, maybe run a project based around AI even, or just fulfill their purpose in life? What would you say to them?
Yeah.
Because you've done a lot in a lot of different countries, a lot of different places. It's really fascinating. We're here in Cairns. We've both had global experiences, really. What advice can you give to other people who want to pursue something similar?
I think right now there has been no better time to try and start something and pursue something that really is your deep desire and aspiration. And that's because it's not like you no longer need to go and get higher education or get a particular degree, but you now have a lot of assistance and a large domain of knowledge in the form of artificial intelligence that can assist you with getting answers, assist you with problem solving, assist you with moving forward in a business. Pick one business, pick something that you want to do, and then leverage AI to map out how you're going to get there. Map out all the knowledge gaps that you don't have. Figure that out first. Then start step by step. Okay, what's the next obstacle or what's the next step that I need to get to? You can really leverage AI. It's now something called, well, I like to think of it as it's basically a leveler. So prior, there was an asymmetry of knowledge. You probably didn't have a certain bit of knowledge and you would have to either go to school or hire an expert or or find a professional to to give you that piece of knowledge. And now with AI, you can essentially, with a good prompt, get it to provide you with that knowledge to then move you the next step. So I think if anyone is out there trying to start anything whatsoever, you really have the power to leverage this intelligence that we've created. These models are so powerful, they'll only continue to get more powerful. We didn't touch on a lot of the risks, but perhaps in another podcast we can. But there is a really good opportunity to just pick something and then go for it.
Yeah.
Because
the world's your oyster.
In a way, the world is your oyster. And it's going to be everywhere in terms of, I often ask myself, like, what does the future workforce look like? And I think you will have to have some level of aptitude in AI.
Mm.
Yeah. So
Interesting.
that is sort of my thoughts on AI in the Pacific, in PNG. And you know what the coolest things is? PNG people are super industrious and they always have really incredible ideas, and I have this really confident feeling that we'll get some incredible products or businesses when you just have really educated people and motivated people trying to fix their own problems, fix the you know what I mean. They're very industrious and they just need any assistance. And I think AI can be that tool to give them that sort of assistance.
Yeah, I think it's really exciting times. And it just all comes back to the education piece, I think, again. And I feel like I've got a lot to learn and I want to upskill myself personally, because you at the base level, you think, oh yeah, I'll use ChatGPT to, write an email. But there's so much more beyond that you can do. And there's a lot of potential. So Jonny, it's been a privilege to sit down and have you here.
Thanks,
I'm sure we'll be catching up again soon.
Yeah.
We'll have to maybe film an episode over in Palm or something.
Yeah, that would be great. That was great. This was my first ever podcast. Do you think they could tell? There was a few mind blanks, but I really enjoyed the chat and the conversation and your setup. And thank you, Dom.
Thank you, Jonny.
Thanks.